Well, a later trip to the south of France gave us a chance to become acquainted with the related heresy of the Cathars. They were decimated in the 12th century. I'll just pass this through, and you can look at the remarkable vestiges and interesting castles still visible in the south of France. And it turns out that the Cathars in the south of France also borrowed the belief systems of the Bulgarian Bogomils. By the way, the word Bogomil means beloved of God. Well, basically what they believed in, that Christ had not saved humanity, that the church, as they knew it, had sold over to the way of the world, and to strive for salvation, people try to achieve it try to achieve human perfection through discipline and abstinence. And this reminds me of our own Shakers. But the key issue here is that both the Bosnians and the Cathars, with these two movements and many others, it was not only the challenge of established dogma, but the incipient assertion of local difference which provoked persecution. In France, for example, it was all part of the general power struggle between North and South. Eventually, the North won and superseded the political autonomy and cultural heritage of the South, together with their Catholic beliefs. And that's what happened in this country, too. But we also need to understand that from the disintegration of the Roman Empire onward, a lot of the turmoil had to do with pacifying and integrating a number of so-called barbarian invasions. Both the Eastern and Western sequels of the Roman Empire used the tenets of Christianity in what they saw as their unifying and civilizing mission. Women, in particular, were especially threatening and in need of civilizing. Well, the example of the raging riots, shall I say more? And so the burning of witches could be a separate talk all by itself. So protests duly suppressed as heretical during the Middle Ages eventually culminated in the Protestant Reformation, the heresy of all heresies, and sparked bloody religious wars. And in this case as well, battles over ideas was a battle over political power. Underlying the Catholic claims of universality was the imperial claim of the Germanic successors of the Roman Empire. But during the Renaissance and Reformation, the centralizing drive of church and empire was challenged and resulted in the formation of a number of discrete nation-states. Some held out for Catholicism, others became officially Protestant. But these new entities, once again, left no room for dissent. If you happen to be a prudent Catholic and wish to buy afterlife insurance, your ruler was a Catholic king, and if your ruler was a Catholic king or one of those worldly Catholic bishops, you just went to Rome and brought back indulgences for yourself and your loved ones. If, on the other hand, your ruler was one of those born-again Lutheran princes, you could freely express your outrage by running to the nearest church and smashing some saints' noses. But under no circumstances could you count on the solace of indulgences if your prince was Lutheran, or on the redeeming power of iconoclasm if your prince was Catholic. As we all know, that's why the pilgrims braved the furies of the Atlantic Ocean to found a new Jerusalem, the city on the hill, where they would be free at last, Well, unfortunately, they immediately sought to impose their own form of Calvinism on everyone else, and the cycle of intolerance started all over again. And the accusation of heresy, again, is always about politics. As we struggle to understand and explain the world around us, we also struggle to formulate rules to live by in the light of those ideas. But when these ideas change and evolve, the established order usually resists. It naturally does not wish to relinquish its positions of power, and then it seeks to legitimize these positions of power through ideology. The definition of ideology being that the ideas it promotes no longer reflect current scientific understanding of the world. But we did find a solution, didn't we? The separation of church and state, of course. How is it supposed to work? As our founding fathers articulated it, it means that the governance of the state is based on rational, generally agreed on principles, as initially spelled out in the glorious Constitution, while matters of personal belief can create their own chosen venues. People can assemble in churches or synagogues or temples, speak in tongues, or practice silence, or pursue the utopian or missionary goals to their heart's content. In short, they can be as heterodox as they wish without causing the ship of state to founder on the shoals of their chosen passions. Great. We really got it this time. Not so fast. Our founding fathers and the 18th century in general believed in rationality. I said believe, and there's the rub. As much as one would like to share their beliefs, we know better, don't we? Although our understanding of how our brain functions is still in its infancy, we do know that its evolutionary past retains some of its very primitive fear and aggression triggers. Why else would so much of our scientific research be channeled to military ends? We are capable of some rationality, but we are also capable of coding a venerable constitution to serve the most irrational or self-seeking impulses. And the rationale for law and order can also be just an excuse for abuse of power, as it has always been under Roman emperors and Catholic popes, for abuse and absolute monarchs and revolutionary regimes. So here we are now in the 21st century, and the pace of change accelerates ever faster. We're not altogether helpless. We have learned a thing or two from our past trials and errors. We do try to institutionalize checks and balances. We do try to be vigilant in protecting our rights as individuals, as citizens. And at the same time, we do try to walk the thin line between freedom and license. And particularly as Unitarian Universalists, we do have a proud tradition of heresy. The capacity to shed the dogmatic straitjacket of mainstream culture in order to challenge the status quo and envision alternative futures. And so, in closing, I would like to propose the following topic for general discussion. How would you define the particular tyranny or tyrannies of our day? What ideologies dominate or try to manage our belief systems? And finally, what would be your heresy of choice today?